One.
And turn the video on the bottom left.
All right. I welcome everyone to this December 27th, 2023 town board meeting. Town of
Supervisor, close out YouTube. Try going to the. Yep, that one. Just, no, that's me. That's why I think we were getting the echo.
Yeah.
Did you hear?
I thought-
Try minimizing that. Yep, right there. Try minimizing him as well. Yep, top right. Nope, keep going up. To the left, the little, to the left, the one, nope, sorry. The little dash line on the right.
Up.
You
Up a
want
little and to the left.
just one to the
One
left,
left up, one box over it.
to the left. That little line, one more. Yep.
Yeah,
that line there.
right. Little more.
All right, where is, why do I not hear us now, though? Echoing. Maybe someone else has their video audio open.
Dan just muted himself. so
Oh,
I'm
okay,
coming through
that
Dan.
could be what it was. All right.
I don't see YouTube.
Yeah, I don't either. You can make that big again. Right, there you go. All right, we'll give that a shot. I don't hear it now. That must have been what it was. All right. Sorry, Supervisor, go ahead.
Are you sure?
We'll give it round two.
All right. I still continue to welcome all of you to the December 27th Rush Town Board meeting. And I would appreciate if you would join me in our Pledge of Allegiance and our roll call, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the town clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Chase.
Here.
Here.
Ellie,
Here.
Councilman Liver,
Here.
Supervisor Cubie.
Here. And before we get started, I want to make a couple of announcements. I think probably most of you know that this is my last town board meeting. And I had a script written and I said, you know, they probably don't want me to read that script. So I'll just play it from the feet. And probably in no specific order. But I would like to first acknowledge Deputy Supervisor Amber Corbin. I mean this sincerely. My wife could verify that because she heard me say it 100 times at least. I couldn't have done it without Amber Corbin. Just couldn't have. And you know, I've made observations over the years and I've said to myself, I got to try it. And without her, I couldn't have done it. Second, I'd like to acknowledge Councilperson Morelli. And I'm gonna mention those two to begin with, because I couldn't have done it without Councilperson Morelli either. And when I say I couldn't have done it, I worked for the most part, not maybe the last month, but for the most part, I worked 35 to 45 hour a week for 3.5 years. The only reason I didn't work more was because of these two. They did not shy away from anything. I would almost daydream and think something up, and one of them would say, I'll do that, I'll take that. And that was absolutely wonderful. Next, I want to acknowledge Dan Chase for Councilperson Chase for becoming involved in one of the greatest progressions that we've ever known, and that was the code changes. I really appreciate that. There's another case, if I had to do that, wouldn't have been done. So thank you very much. I also want to acknowledge John Morelli for his work with the Comprehensive Plan Committee. I had 2 years of frustration with that committee. Nothing got done. Every time I'd ask for a report, I'd get some kind of a grunt. And I knew when you took over, that would be the end of that grunting, and I would hear some progress, and it did happen. And I thank you for that. I also feel very strongly about the Rush Parks Association and the work that they've done with the volunteer group, not only for the volunteer group on the campus, but also at the 100 acres over at Rush, Scottsville Road. And I do appreciate all the work that those people put into it. Again, I wouldn't have been out there doing it myself with a little trowel, but I would have had to account for it in the budget, and we didn't have to account for it in the budget. I thank you for that. Rush Historical Society, led up by Dave and Janet, but tied closely to me through Sue Me. And it was a wonderful experience to have that get really started while I was still here, and I appreciate that. I don't think I've forgotten anyone. So let me just say that this entire workforce in the town, I've worked here for 23 years. And this entire workforce that the town has today is the best doggone workforce I've ever seen in 23 years. Yeah, there are challenges sometime and glitches sometime, but nothing that we can't get through. And to see people who really are devoted to doing their job and making sure that they are a servant to the public has been a rewarding experience for me. And I'm going to miss that more than anything. I'm going to miss the people that they serve. And it's going to have to, I'm going to have to find someone else to satisfy my need for that kind of interface. So thank you to everyone. And with that, I can get on to, I've already announced that this is my last town board meeting. Maybe I should get into entertainment. Don't comment, John. We can now go into the public comment period. And you know what? At least one board member is probably gonna stick her tongue out at me for saying this, but when I first started this job 4 years ago, I delighted myself in saying, you're not holding any more to any time period. If you want to talk for 4 minutes, talk for 4 minutes. If you want to talk for 2 minutes, talk for 2 minutes. If you want to talk for 5 minutes, talk for 5 minutes. So tonight, my last meeting, with your permission,
It's a board decision. It's a board policy.
and I'm overruling the board tonight. So I've never done that in 4 years, so tonight I'm gonna do it. And I invite anyone who wants to get up to the podium and speak. And I don't know if I'd want 10 minutes, but, and first of all is my neighbor.
You asked for it, Jerry. There
For
you go.
those of
Oh, all right.
of us that don't know you, please address and name.
Absolutely.
Oh,
So to
yes,
continue to
yes,
thank
hello.
you, it is on.
It is.
It's, yeah, should be in
Sorry.
order, but Dave Slabrisky, 69 Rush, West Rush Road, and basically a brief thank you to both Amber and Jerry, because that's how I know you folks. I know everybody else here too. But if you've, for those that have never run for office, been in office, been on a town board, it's a thankless job, and hopefully when you leave that you did get some reward out of it. There's small little battles and there's small rewards, and you never know what happens when you take this position. And so thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak?
Can you hear me okay?
Who are you?
My name is Hans Schmidheiner. I live at 119 Rush, West Rush Road. And I wanted to also take a moment to mirror what Dave said. I'd like to thank you both, Jerry and Amber. And I'm going to use all of my 3 minutes and maybe a half minute more by telling you that I've always admired 3 types of people. This is what I tell people. I admire musicians. Why? Because I tried for many years and I'm terrible. I admire athletes. I love watching a great football game. Why do I admire athletes? Again, I'm terrible. And I usually end with the joke, and I also admire accountants. But tonight I'm here to say there's a 4th category of people that I admire, and that is public servants. And that includes you too. And why am I saying that? Because I would be awful, essentially. So, Jerry, one thing I just wanted to highlight is I love the way you listen to people. It's always what I've admired about you. You will listen to the nth degree and try to get the opinion of everybody you could possibly listen to before you make your decision. And then you deliberate a long time. You're very careful about that, and you're a deep thinker. And you even call me up, about information that is scientific that you may not totally be comfortable with. And, so you reach out in addition to just listening to people, you reach out for information before you make a decision. So I've always admired that about you. The other thing I admire about you is you remember names better than any other person that I personally know. I don't know if you know this about Jerry, but I think he knows the supervisors' names. And I would estimate the 30 surrounding towns. And that's no, exaggeration in my opinion. I could be wrong, it might be 20. Anyway, Amber, I've always thought you are the sharpest tack we have here in Rush. You are so clever and thorough and detail oriented. And you keep everybody else in line in these meetings, I mean, you'll say, hey, look, on page 65, paragraph 6, subsection C, it doesn't say that. So I'm making that up, but you're what we needed, and thank you so much for that. And last but not least, I think it's like the story of me describing my wife when I say, well, I'll turn it to you. you know, Jerry was saying to somebody the other day, you know, Amber's been correcting me for 7 years now. And Amber said, no, that would be 7.5. So here's a calendar for you from Judy Foster, our local photographer. And I'm a little disappointed because I thought they were all animals from Rush, which she has many pictures of. They're from all over the world. So here's your calendars for 2024.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Are we allowed to accept the
Thank
gift?
you.
Beneath certain pressure.
Okay.
Would anyone else like to speak? Who are you, Tom?
Tom Gust, number 8 Coal Creek Way, for what it's worth, which isn't a lot, kind of recently a little more engaged in politics, when we moved here, Jerry was building supervisor, I believe, building inspector, whatever that title is, and, for what it's worth, everything this current board has done, I've been happy with. I think they've done a fine job, and, my interactions with Supervisor Kusi have been good. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
Hello, I'm John Morelli, 535 Five Points Road. I just want to say that I've really appreciated your efforts. And in my 30 plus years of being in Rush, I don't think I've seen more done or started or initiated or more efforts expended on getting this town up and running in good shape than I've seen in the last couple of years. So I'm very pleased with it. And hope, it continues, and thank you guys so much for making that happen, because it's really special and unique. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Janet Glocker. I'm a resident of Rush. I want to thank Supervisor Kusi for 23 years of service to the town of Rush as the building inspector, code enforcement officer, member of the town board, and most recently supervisor. Jerry has been available to all of us. Similarly, I deeply appreciate and want to publicly thank Deputy Supervisor Amber Corbin, the woman who does her research, listens carefully to residents, gathers the facts, presents them publicly, and votes responsibly. Jerry and Amber returned emails, they returned phone calls, they followed up, and they reported back to inquiring residents, myself among them. Both of these outgoing public servants understood that when they voted on a proposal before the board, they were representing the views of the town residents. In the future, residents are blessed that our comprehensive plan survey made our views very clear. Future town boards will have it easier than Jerry and Amber in that respect. In a vibrant town like ours, there will always be issues of concern going forward. An issue for me is industrially sized solar, prime soils, agricultural land, respecting our rich indigenous past, when the Office of Renewable Energy Siting is an affront to our constitutionally protected home rule. I worry about PFAS and about large battery energy storage systems poisoning our soil and water and threatening our first responders. It's my hope that the incoming town board will be as exemplary as the town board of the last 4 years. So, Dan Wooliver, Dan Chase, Jean Morelli, a high bar has been established for you in the last 4 years. Jerry and Amber, thank you.
Thank you. If someone else doesn't speak, you're gonna have to listen to me again.
I don't see anyone on chat supervisor, so.
No one
Amber, it's Phyllis. I have my hand up and I put something in the chat that
Okay.
I'd like to speak.
Phyllis, I'm not a co-host today, so we will rely on Deputy Supervisor or Baker for that. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Thank you. Good evening, Phyllis Wickerham, 105 Biondo Court. Like the previous commenters, I want to congratulate you and Jerry Amber on your tenure as town board member and town supervisor. Like Dave and Hans said, it is a thankless job and you were willing to take that on. So I do appreciate that. But I do have a couple of comments and some concerns on items on tonight's agenda. So I will start with the thing that I noticed in the budget transfers is that this year, the town was over budget by $42,000 for legal fees. We were also $80,000 over budget for engineering fees. I do hope that there are mechanisms in place in the future that will start to look at those expenses before they can add up to those extremely large overages. I do appreciate that you do have a finance director now that seems to be very capable of putting those type of mechanisms in the place. So I look forward to Janice making sure that we do not do that in the future. The other question I had about the budget transfers, and I realize I won't get answers, and I appreciate that, is we have budget transfers number 1 through 7 and 12 through 13. What happened to 8 through 11? I would be interested to know where those are and why they're not in the transfers tonight. My next comment is on budget or on agenda item 2, the Rush Historical Society and the 1911 house. My concern, and I hope that what I'm reading here will be followed through on, is that should the Historical Society be successful in getting their grant funds, then and only then will the town support with matching funds up to. I will make a very strong comment about the fact that I have never approved of the town allowing the Historical Society to take over this home with no funding mechanism in sight, knowing that it was going to take significant renovations to bring it up to code. My concern has always been that my taxpayer dollars and all of the taxpayers in this town would be responsible for that house, even though we will not get any benefit out of it. A not-for-profit will be getting benefit out of this. My other concern is that you will be providing in-kind contributions by staff. And my concern there is, what kind of staff? You're saying providing staff time and expertise as needed. Does that include our attorneys and our engineer? If that is the case, then that is also taxpayer dollars being spent above and beyond what you are suggesting you will do as a matching fund. Those are my concerns on the items on the agenda tonight. I realize I probably won't get a personal answer on any of them, but I do want the public to understand that our tax dollars will be used to renovate that house, and it is not acceptable to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. I'll warn you again, if you don't speak, I will. All right, well, there's one last thing I'd like to say, and that has to do with uh, I've had 2 calls in the past 2 weeks of people, and I think they were serious. They weren't joking. And they were saying that I didn't know what was going on. And I'm mentioning that only because it'll turn into a compliment from me to everyone who has helped me here. I learned years ago when I was made a supervisor at 26 years of age at Eastman Kodak Company. I learned then that you don't assign somebody a job and then bird dog them to do it. It just doesn't work that way, folks. And my experience with this workforce in this town has proven that to be true. I used to assign jobs to people, and if you've heard me already say that people even jumped up before I could assign it and said, I'll do that, I'll take that, which was absolutely wonderful. But after going through that, the assignment part and the volunteer part, I couldn't possibly ask someone to do something and then follow up and bird dog them. I just don't feel that's the right way to go. I had a 35-year career where I was successful thinking that way. And I think that the people here appreciate me for not bird dogging them. I know most of what's going on here, but the people who took the job were the ones that were responsible for reporting it and getting it done. And for that, I will be ever thankful. So I'll stop with that. And we can move on to the approval of minutes. And I see by the agenda, we have the December 13th minutes. Would anyone like to lead that resolution?
My question, are they the correct ones with that amendment in it?
No, and I don't believe they were resubmitted. I've only gotten them once, right?
Yeah,
That's all I've gotten.
Yeah, I think.
The amendment I'm gonna make, I've just checked. I did not see a
Resubmission of it.
resubmission. I don't know if there was
Okay,
one.
do you have the amendments from before so we can?
Yep.
Put those into everything? Okay. I so move to approve the town board minutes of December 13th, 2023 as amended and resubmitted by town clerk Busey. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, but I will make the amendments to them. On page 3, under Roman numeral 6, budget transfers. It said the town board discussed the transfers provided by Budget Officer Smith at length and requested more clarification before approval of all in their entirety. That's fine. What I would like removed is transfers number 1 through number 7 are to be tabled. We never discussed transfer numbers 1 through 7. Jerry, you weren't at that meeting. We were only given transfers 8 through 21. And we did not act on 12 and 13. So my amendment proposal is to remove transfer number 1 through number 7, that they be tabled since we did not discuss them.
Thank you.
Any discussion on that?
No, that's
No,
fair.
I agree. Right, so that is my amendment. Robert, do I read it again
As long as the board is clear, as long as the board is clear as to what the amendment is, which it sounds like we're removing a sentence that you just read,
Mhm.
then as long as we're comfortable and everyone's on the same page, we can go forward.
Dan, are you good with that? Dan Williver?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Dan, you were responsible for the,
We have to do
We
a
have to
vote.
vote
We have
on
to
it.
vote, yeah. on the amended minute?
Councilwoman Corbett,
Aye.
Councilman Chase,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilman Oliver,
Aye.
Supervisor Kusi,
I'll abstain because I wasn't here for that. And for some reason, I thought it was done.
I hadn't seen it.
Okay, that's acceptable. Dan Woiver,
Yes.
all the finances fall on you, and we can start off with the budget transfers. Do you have any to report on?
I move be it resolved that having audited all the unexpended balances of existing appropriations, I move the transfers 1 through 7 in the amount of $188,555.20 and number 12 through and 13 in the amount of $122,000 be approved. Do I have a second?
I would like to discuss that.
The numbers,
Right, the
the
number.
totals didn't add up.
And
Well-
I'll second it and then we can discuss it.
Okay.
Okay, so the way it was originally presented regarding the highway department transfers, that is really two components in there because the $188,555.20 exceeds the appropriated fund balance amount. So that was the first question that we had and investigated, that you cannot just do that. It's not there. So they agreed, went back and realized that actually there was $87,305.20 that has to come out of the reserve fund under the highway, not the appropriated fund balance. So that is being changed. I would like to amend the resolution to really split that $188,555 into two components. To say inside the resolution that the 188 comprised of the $188,555.20 is comprised of the Highway DA 0878 Reserve Fund in the amount of $87,305.20. And the, under the highway, the DA 5999 appropriated fund balance in the amount of $101,250.
Could you
And
repeat
that's-
that number again, Jean? 101?
101 and $101,250. And that the numbers, the transfer numbers 12 and 13, which we kind of put them on hold at the last meeting because we had some issues with them in the description. I'm still not happy with the description, but I guess we can move the money from the appropriate. We have to use the appropriated fund balance, which was in this current year's budget, to cover expenses as needed. And in this case, it's to cover legal and engineering, but for reasons not as described by our resident, Mrs. Wickerham, they're not over budget. They are not over budget. Those numbers, they're way they've been represented in our fund accounting is gross amounts that have been paid to many attorneys, many engineers for all kinds of projects. You know, we have 3 solar projects going on in town that require a lot of oversight, but we have gotten reimbursed over $40,000 from intervenor funds. What fund that went into, people won't tell me. We have gotten reimbursed through some escrow of funds per agreements on 2 solar projects. And I don't know how much that was, at least 40,000. Perhaps we should have been reimbursed more, and we have an audit to determine that. And people are now doing that in our town, billing for those kinds of things, those pass-through amounts. So it is not the town's responsibility, but the applicants from most of these costs. The actual cost to the town is not, I believe, over anybody's budget that we had. Please make that clear. I've been saying it for 2 years. I hope everybody lets that sink in, that it's the presentation in our fund accounting that needs to be cleared up. And if not, we need to sit here at every damn board meeting and say, that really goes back here and that offsets this and that. There's no offsetting to the gross amount for legal and engineering. And we are not over budget on the amounts for the town's responsibility for engineering and legal expenses. I hope I made that very, very clear in how these things go. Having said that, we will move that. And I have been asking, someday maybe it'll happen, someday that we get to know the true numbers. Keep asking folks, keep demanding that of this board and this town to show everything very transparent. So you know what we're paying for legal and engineering. Those are the 2 that I personally focus in on, because when we're first given a set of financial statements to look at, I would say, what is that number? Why are we compared to the budget? Why are we over budget? What's the reason? Drill. Well, just as I just explained, why do we have to do that? It should be transparent. I'm hoping we can change our financial statements to reflect it that way, and these budget transfers. Because some money came in and it went into the general fund, presumably. I can't tell you because no one's told me. And I am going to complain till we find out. And that's all I could promise you, whatever, you know, and people stare at me and refuse to answer, but what can I tell you? Please ask the questions yourself of our elected officials as we go forward to make sure you know where our money is being spent and whether we're getting reimbursed when we should be. Things are happening. Finally, I have been assured that. So I'm telling you, we have made some, sent some bills out so that the taxpayers are not paying for costs that pass through to applicants. So, have I said enough tonight?
You've spoken perfectly.
Thank you.
Thank
I've forgotten
you.
what the resolution is, but
Okay, to be clear, yeah, so Dan has a motion on the table. It sounds like Jean wants to amend that, motion. Really, that should probably come from Dan when the vote, or the board will just need to vote on Dan's current motion. Does that make sense? Because Dan moved it as it was written. So that's what's in front of the board right now.
I kind of split it out, Dan. I don't know if you did, but this Dibbles.
Well, I think it was Dan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, I have it split out on mine, but
Okay.
Dan, what Jean did was she took first number
Yeah.
1.6, right? That's
Yeah.
my, it's 7 separately.
Yep.
Yeah.
1 through 6. 1 through 6 total 100. 101,250 is what I had.
Yes.
All set?
So are we clear what the word is gonna say now? It might be helpful to reread the resolution.
Want Dan to do.
If Dan doesn't have it in front of him and someone wants to read it, he gives a thumbs up that's what he wants the motion to read, and that's fine by me. I just want to make sure that the language that's being adopted is understood and approved by all board members.
Who wants to take it?
I can do it.
I can't. Private at this point. Okay.
I so move, be it resolved that having Jim Wolliver funded all the unexpended balances of existing appropriations, I move that transfers 1 through 6 in the amount of $101,250
From DA.
from DA 599 be moved to DA 9055.800. I'm sorry,
There's a lot of.
there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I
So-
don't know if we have to. read all
Okay,
of
I
them.
won't read all those. And that we move line number 6 for, line number 7 for $87,000, $387,305.20 from DA 0878. And in the amount, I already gave you the amount. And lines 12 and 13 in the amount of 122,000
From, I think we have to say.
from
eight.
DA 5999. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Aye.
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 Councilman Wolliver,
Aye.
Supervisor Kusi.
Aye.
One, if I could add, if you guys look at transfer number 7, or number 4, if you go for $1,500, this is DA, so this is highway, but over on the right under description, it says town clerk. I don't believe it should be the town clerk if it's the highway. You see on number 4.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, for the description.
For the description, because last meeting, we had a AA 59999 for the unemployment insurance that was covering the general fund, so I think probably this was just a
an
copy and
automatic
paste.
fill.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add that if our residents are confusing over budget, on budget, or under budget, if you look at 11 and 12, you can see where it states right in print, end of year is over budget. And it shouldn't say that.
I agree.
And if you watch the YouTube recording of last board meeting, we did do transfers 8 through 11 and 14 through 21. If you would like to see and go to the town board meeting packet, it will show you those as well.
Thank you.
I'm moving on. Moving on.
Ready?
Ready?
All right. Dan Wolliver, because you're.
Yes, sir.
Up, you can do the approval of abstract.
I move, having reviewed all vouchers on abstract 12-2 of December 27th, 2023, the authorized payment of totaling $37,103.60, which includes Fund AA General for $25,673.55, Fund DA Highway for $9,018.40, and Fund LL Library for $2,411.65. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Councilman James,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilman Wolliver,
Aye.
Supervisor Kusi.
Aye. And we can move on to reports from town board members, the clerk and the attorney. We can start with Councilperson Morelli.
Thank you. I did do one thing in this time frame since the last meeting, and that is on December 14th. I attended the Rush Seniors Christmas Party at Wildwood Country Club, and it was a very, very nice event, attended by a lot of people, and it was very festive. So, thank you.
Thank you. And I know this isn't in your regular order, Councilperson Chase, but could you go next?
Yep, I have nothing to report.
Thank you very much. And Valerie, the Deputy Town Clerk, do you have a report? Okay. And Robert, do you have a report?
Nothing to report.
That's fine.
Don't forget Mr. Wooliver.
I won't forget Mr. Wooliver. I'm just making sure you're ready.
I'll be ready at the end.
Dan, you're on deck.
I attended the Conservation Board meeting and I attended the Library Board meeting. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Nothing from you? You ready for me?
I am ready for you.
All right, people, now it's my turn to say my thank yous and every thing that's in between. Unlike you, Supervisor, I have to write down my thoughts. So here goes. I want to share my thoughts and brief reflections with all of the residents of Rush over my 4 years and as an elected council person on the Rush Town Board. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve my fellow Rush residents since 2020 on this town board as an elected official. Thank you to all who have reached out to me to ask questions, look for answers, challenge me, step up to volunteer, and as well as my fellow town board members and our supporting staff. We all live here because we love the character of Rush, our neighbors, the open expanse of rolling hills, our creeks, our river, our flora, our fauna, that we see each and every day when we look outside our windows. What you do not see is the daily workload that we all take on. I myself have taken on as a result of being an elected town board member has been a lot of work, a lot more than I ever imagined. The amount of work we put in and accomplished over my 4 years is truly noteworthy. I had no idea the amount of time, the amount of work that is needed for this elected position. The following is a short snippet of that. I can look back at 2020 and my first accomplishment was our Right to Farm signs. That was a huge accomplishment for this wonderful town. This town board also went through and adopted a town board meeting and a minutes procedure policy. I was a liaison to the Tier 3 solar projects that are coming at this town faster than any of you can imagine. I was a part of, along with John Morelli and many others, part of the Tier 3 solar approval process checklist, which is a model that many towns want to steal from us. I've worked closely with our building inspector, John Limbeck, on all things Tier 3 solar. A brief overview I was asked to give, so I will give it. Werner, 5 megawatt project on West Henrietta Road, which came in previous board as Forefront, was sold to DSD. This project is not finished, as the agreed upon landscaping that is required under our solar law from 2019 and documented in the planning board resolution, I hope will be followed carefully. Not one tree has been planted to date that I'm aware of to screen this industrial solar project. The Howlett Helios / Next Era 5 megawatt project on Honey Eye Falls number 6 Road. Again, this project was also sold from the original developer. This project is not completed either. Horseshoe Solar, Invenergy, 180 megawatt project in both Russia and Caledonia that I first became aware of back in 2018. The Rush portion, we have been able to get down to an 8.4 megawatt, 2 separate facilities located on East River Road and Gola Road. This current town board has worked tirelessly with our special counsel, Ben Wisniewski, to do our best to protect our residents that are impacted by this industrial solar project. It's in residentially zoned lands and on prime agricultural fields. Horseshoe Solar will be starting their installation of the new substation on Gola Road and panel installation soon. There is still much for this town and this town board to be on top of with Horseshoe Solar. Invenergy has agreed through hours of working again with only this town board, no one else, on the host community agreement to send out any unexpended, they're called LAF funds, local agency accounting funds, to the town of Rush, approximately 40K. This needs to be monitored again by this town board in the future, so nothing that hasn't been received yet will be received. There is a host community agreement that requires Invenergy to offset the archaeological and cultural impact at Gola. This is a New York State requirement under the permitting process under ORES, the Office of Renewable Energy Siting, and with a mitigation plan that is required under SHPO, the Office of the State Historic Preservation Office, which results in the town of Rush doing something at the 1911 house to show the history of the Seneca that lived on the sacred grounds of the Gola Road area. Who will be the town board solar liaison to ensure these agreements are carried out? The host community agreement and the road use agreement need to be monitored carefully by this incoming town board. Careful eye could never be more careful. An archaeological independent monitor that the town contracts with need to be ready to go on day one of that installation. It's part of the host community agreement that this town board worked with Invenergy on. There is so much for the next administration and town board to stay on top of, as everything Horseshoe Solar has to do. We briefly, a few weeks or maybe a month ago, I shared about the Hudson Energy Russ LLC. It's on the corner of Fishel Road and East River Road. 42 megawatt facility. It's huge, on over 100 acre, with a substation being built in an R20 zone district. The Hudson Energy rep said they will be reaching out to the new town board in the future, so be ready. Other solar projects that have come at us over my 4 years, Honey Eye Falls Road number 6 is a huge area that there are tons of solar developers interested in. Why? Lots of open farmland, substation right on the corner of West Henrietta Road and number 6 Road. It's also come to our attention that fields that have the large National Grid electric lines that run from Henrietta to Gola and then south to Avon, those lines are getting a lot of attention by National Grid. I can't say why, but want to make sure everyone's aware of that. So that's everything solar. EV charging stations in the pavilion lot was a huge endeavor that I was proud to be a part of. 100% grant covered that installation. The town hall security equipment, filling in as deputy supervisor, came to my attention about added security needs from the employees here in the town hall. Those that could be completed this year have been completed. Thanks to Code Enforcement Officer Doug Scarzen and others, and other equipment has been included in the 2024 budget and should be completed in 2024. The local waterfront revitalization program, LWRP. I was appointed as the steering committee rep for the town of Rush. It's a planning grant. It's in cooperation with the town of Henrietta. It is still ongoing. I don't know why it is still ongoing, but it's still ongoing. It's in Albany and stuck there. I work closely with Recreation Supervisor Pat Stevens, myself as liaison to the town of Rush White Springs Farm, and Pat Stevens as Recreation Supervisor on all leases, licenses, insurance, and memorandums of understandings on all town properties. Pat Stevens does an incredible job. She added to her already full plate of responsibility and stepped up to take on supervision of the tenants of White Springs Farm, and most recently has also taken on the Rush seniors under her department so their travel program could continue, that this board fought so hard to make sure that that could continue. Thank you, Pat, for that. This town board room, I saw a few of you walk in here tonight that haven't been here in a while and say, "Ooh, look at those big TV monitors." They've been here for a while. Again, a huge accomplishment that we've been able to put together for what we call our hybrid meetings. My role as deputy supervisor began in 2021. Victoria Mozzetti was a previous deputy supervisor in 2020. Victoria Mozzetti, with COVID upon us, set up the ability for all residents to participate in town board, planning board, zoning board, conservation board meetings, either in person or via Zoom, with a chat feature. Victoria also set up the town YouTube channel so anyone can watch a meeting that was recorded at their convenience. As Hans stated, I'm kind of a data person. So I looked at the last town board meeting on YouTube on December 13th. That town board meeting has had 110 views in just the past 10 days. And no, I haven't done 109 of them to make the data look skewed. During my 4 years on this board, having Zoom and YouTube is one of the most, quote, thank you, unquote, comments I get from residents. Our residents and others presenters are so thankful that our board meetings allow for Zoom participation. Dan Wolliver, you're a perfect example. As a town board member, he's been able to participate via Zoom due to his work commitment for close to a year. That takes him out of town. As he is out of town tonight, he is able to participate as an active member of our town board and for our community. This board passed a local law on telecommunications that allows for just this type of exception. I hope that will not change. The board passed The board passed a resolution in 2021 that to assist the town clerk in the responsibilities at board meetings, the deputy supervisor would monitor the chat feature in Zoom. This teamwork between the town clerk and the deputy supervisor has helped to allow for active virtual participation. But it has also assisted when there were technological issues as well as any issues with those participating virtually. Those of us that have been here when some people have maybe said some inappropriate things on Zoom, were able to stay on top of it. I also asked to meet with Supervisor-elect Dan Wolliver. We met last week, and I shared with him and passed on to him the many projects, liaison assignments, et cetera, that I have undertaken in my 4 years on this board. Those that are completed, those that are ongoing, and those that are temporary in nature. We agreed it was a worthwhile meeting. Those are just a few examples I wanted to share tonight. Serving on the town board for the Rush residents has not, however, been all smiles. The behind the scenes can be very difficult. As an elected official, I do not have a boss. You are my boss, residents. The town supervisor is not my boss. I represent the residents of Rush and the residents who I report to. There have been complaints from some in the town hall, and they complain about others as well. Why would there be complaints? Well, there's always room for improvement. But a few examples are, as you saw tonight, we review board minutes. And if I find something that needs amending, I will bring it to the attention, and I'm often criticized for it. I think it's important that you know that these are things that many of us deal with on an ongoing basis. And as I am leaving, it's probably my only opportunity to make these statements. I'm doing my job to ensure accurate minutes are approved. I'm accused of asking people to do above and beyond what is part of their job responsibilities. Not true. Working on anything requires asking questions and doing research. If anyone comes to me with a question, I do my best to find the answers for them. If I ask a question that needs an answer and I do not get an answer, I keep asking. I could keep going, but will not. My record on Zoom and YouTube speak for themselves. As an elected official, I'm responsible for how tax dollars are spent and to those that elected me, and I worked for 4 years to do just that. So in closing, I have not let those negative people influence who I am and how I go about representing the residents of Rush. This current town board, over the past 2 years especially, have done the work that needed to get done and more. We've worked harder, as we all know. We've all worked well together, more than any other board that I've been a part of. I'm glad I was a part of the many, many local laws we passed, the improvements to this town hall building, and so much more. The incredible tenants of the New York Museum of Transportation, A Horse's Friend at the Town of Rush White Springs Farm, are an asset to this community. The partnership with the Rush RPA at the 100 Acres Nature Park is doing amazing things. The partnership with the Rush Historical Society for the 1911 house. This current town board has 2 members whose families go back generations in the history of Rush, My own family goes back 4 generations. Hope this will bring a welcoming sight to the Four Corners in our hamlet. The work with the Genesee Valley Railroad Museum brings events to our town, making our town more farm-friendly through updating the town code. Thank you, Dan. Such a positive outcome to our hard work on this board. Completion of a long overdue comprehensive plan in 2023. Again, thank you, John. Those are just a few. In closing, my record of accomplishments, the thank yous for so many allow me to put my head down on my pillow at night, knowing I'm appreciated for all my hard work and dedication from and for the residents of Rush. Sorry, that was a little long, but I had to say it. Moving on.
I knew you'd cover it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Very much.
I want a copy of that so I know where we left off on stuff.
That crossed my mind.
Okay. Oh. Wow. That was wonderful.
I think I need a cough drop on that.
Okay, so we could now move on to old business. And the first item, the only item under old business is the continued discussion and proposed resolution to update the town employee handbook for the emergency fobs. And I must ask, Code Enforcement Officer Scarson, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you. You have the floor.
The only update that I believe that we were waiting for was the town clerk's input, and I'm not sure that that's been done, or maybe Amber can enlighten me.
I reached out with an email with us all copied in, I think on Friday, asking for the input. I have not seen anything come back yet.
Okay, so
Do
that's as
that?
far as I know.
When we first embarked upon this proposal that came out of a staff meeting, and it was suggested by one of the attendees at the staff meeting. Shortly after that, we were inundated with technological challenges. Are those all cleared out of the way? I know the answer, but I'd like you to tell the people.
As of today, those problems have gone away. The security, I'm sorry, the system that supports in the town hall is working 100% now. It's just that there was an older system with some new items added to it, and the bugs needed to be worked out, and finally the manufacturer came back to us with the correct things to do, and ever since then we haven't had any false alarms that I'm aware of.
Thank you. Does any other board member have a question or? No. Well, I will close this discussion by saying I believe that these fobs worn by all employees in the town hall on their tour of duty will give them an added feeling of security because they won't be alone. They can always press the button and summon help right away. So I think it was a good suggestion, and we're now ready to implement it. Thank you, Doug.
My question, Jerry, is that we have the written policy. The board's had it for a couple weeks now. Pam had said she had sent a couple of suggestions at our last board meeting,
Yes.
but nothing has come back. So I'm not quite sure. How does this board, do we want to move forward with what we have so that the staff can start doing something and using these emergency fobs? Or do we want to wait till the next board comes in and
We can probably ought to see if those change, if we're gonna implement those changes, it should be in the agreement then.
It should be in the agreement.
But
They're
we should
not,
probably table it until we see them.
they're
in
not
there,
show
right?
stopping changes, but you know, to an individual thinking about it, it could be significant. So I think we should implement those or discuss them.
Hey, Dan Welliver, there's your first agenda item.
Are people able, are they using them? Have they been handed out?
They have not.
And we've had them for,
I'm concerned that,
Months
I know
on
that there
months.
was some bugs and some misfiring, if you will,
Yes.
but I'm concerned that, you know, we keep kicking us down the road and the people are not wearing them.
Well, that is why I asked, Code Enforcement Officer Scarson to report, because he's been on top of the situation.
Right.
He, one who dealt with, West Fire Systems to get the bugs out of the system. It wasn't an easy job,
No,
and they eventually sent a technician from out of town. And, on the night he was working here and I was ready to go, I wrote him a little nasty note out on my business cards. And he got the picture real quick. And now it's waiting for us to implement it.
because it will become part of the employee handbook, so that has to be an amendment to the employee handbook.
Yeah,
And Dan,
there were questions about distribution of the different fobs. Who's going to have them? Where are they going to be stored? So we don't lose them. Just how they should be handled. That's
Ian,
gonna be in hand.
Doug has been talking to you about it because it basically is gonna happen under your watch.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
I guess 2 more weeks. Right?
Just make sure it's all ironed out before we
Yeah.
finalize it.
Okay,
okay.
so we can move on to new business. And we have the good fortune of having the co-presidents of the Rush Historical Society talk about the New York State Council of the Arts, the grant application.
Yeah, Janet's going to start this.
Okay, hi, everybody.
Janet,
Oh, there she is.
I'm here. Here on Zoom. So I hope you're all having a great holiday season and thank you for having us here tonight. As you well know, the Rush Historical Society for the past few years has been working diligently to preserve a town asset that when the vision is carried out will provide the community with a connection to its past, present, and future. You're all so familiar with the history of this project that the Historical Society began exploring with the town board early in 2019. Since then, we've had many ups and downs. Last year, we were here asking you to support, asking for your support as we submitted a grant to New York State Council of the Arts. Unfortunately, we did not receive the grant, but we did receive quite a bit of positive feedback. Recommendations we received stress the need for construction-ready documents, a more defined budget proposal, and increased understanding of how the corner house will benefit the community and the residents and visitors. The Historical Society decided to pursue the grant again in 2024. During this past year, we've been working to gather all the proper documents that we were missing in the 2023 grant proposal. To date, we have a structural integrity study, which was the first step in determining if the house was worth saving. The second step was the creation of a master plan. Both reports were done by Bureau Architecture. We also have construction-ready documents from Greater Living Architecture. In 2023, the Historical Society continued to provide monthly programming for the community. We've seen a growing interest in our programs, culminating with, I think many of you were there, more than 100 participants at our tree lighting ceremony earlier this month. Additionally, we've conducted a successful fundraising campaign selling 2024 calendars featuring the Barns of Rush. As well, we were able to secure a donation to pay for the site map of the 1911 property. Tonight, we're here asking for a board resolution to commit up to $100,000 of non-tax surplus dollars for the successful repurposing and rehabilitation of the 1911 Corner House. Funds should be able to be accessed either directly for identified expenditures to complete the construction project or as matching funds for RHS grants. It's understood that all expenditures will be made following our town's procurement policies and the specific grant requirements as necessary. This project is one that will benefit all of Rush, serving as a resource for the community, a new resident and visitor welcome center, and providing community meeting space. The first floor would be used to host historical art and cultural displays throughout. This dedicated space will allow the Rush Historical Society to expand community education and resource programs and arts and cultural activities. The proposed repurposing renovation of the 1911 Corner House supports the recently approved comprehensive plan and reinvigoration of the town's hamlet. It also aligns with the charrette, where people indicated that they wanted things in the hamlet.
Yes, so to continue, the completed architectural plans have resulted in more reasonable costs for renovation. The building is currently appraised for $182,900. The septic system is in good shape. The driveway and parking lot are usable as is. The feasibility plan recommended saving the building. The new building now has a new roof and roof tower asbestos has been removed. What has RHS provided? RH paid for the CAD files created by Barrow Architecture, secured a donor to purchase the site plan, recruited a licensed architect engineer to develop construction-ready drawings at reduced cost. Money already invested into the 1911 Corner House, structural integrity study, new roof and repairs of roof dormer, master plan design, surveyor site plan, construction-ready documents. What has changed in the estimate? How has the construction cost been reduced from January 2023? It removes 40% overage for the architect project management fee. That's a huge amount. Site plan and architectural drawings have been done. Remove the upgrades for the driveway and parking lot. All bids will be processed and managed by RHS and will be based on the town's procurement policies. Municipalities are ineligible for this grant. Partnering with an organization such as RHS is a win-win for the town of Rush. You put in for a grant, they need matching funds. And I just want to recap, there's, residents that are listening that might not know about the whole thing or pay attention. So the recap of the last 4 years with RHS and the 1911 house. It's been 4 years in the making with signatures on a petition from residents, and RHS was the only organization to submit a plan for the house. We've been transparent and spent hundreds of hours to invest in this town in this project. This is a town-owned property, and our plan is an investment in our community. It's a dollar for dollar match if the grant works out. To turn it down is like turning down a retirement contribution from a 401k. RHS has frequently been recommended to apply for grants. We have done this, and we plan to do more. RHS letter of support from New York State Pam Helming, New York State Assembly Member Marjorie Burns, and the Landmark Societies, which you all have copies of. They see the value without a doubt. In fact, Pam Helming got back to me within 24 hours. They wrote me a letter just like that, just like last time. So kind of to conclude here, in the holiday season, we're in the midst of the holiday season. The movie It's a Wonderful Life is an apt comparison to Rush today. Currently, we can become Potterville. We have 2 churches at one end of town, which are all but abandoned. St. Joseph's will be sold, and who knows what will happen. On the other end of town, we have a 7-Eleven, and we'll soon likely have a Dollar General. In this progress, is this progress in such an affluent town? Soon to be Supervisor Dan Wolver, do you want your legacy to be Dollar General Dan? We can, however, flip the side, and that is why residents love it here. Let's support a sense of community. There are so many new families, and there were over 100 adults and kids attending our tree lighting ceremony. The town had a charrette, a comprehensive plan with many residents engaged. Other groups invest their time, and it's very difficult to find people to volunteer these days who are invested in our community. Dan Wolver, you have said that you wanted to tear this building down, and the new incoming town board administration wants nothing to do with it. I think you said that yesterday. That's a loss of $300,000 to the town residents. And what do we end up with? More lawn? Current zoning won't allow another structure to be built there. The cost would be double the amount, if not more, for such a small footprint of anything new to be built there. If the town can't match this amount, then why is it asking RHS to apply for grants? Last year, $175,000 was approved for the project by the town board. The non-taxpayer funds are there. It's a matter of looking forward and representing the residents. That hopefully is why all of you ran for office, including the upcoming administration. The Rush Historic Society is a group of longtime residents and volunteers with a proven track record of community involvement. This is added value to the town-owned property in so many ways. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have the resolution for the,
We all have the resolution. Do we want to have a discussion first?
would you,
What would you like?
lead that discussion after? I mean, lead the discussion and then we'll vote on the resolution.
I've been in favor of the 1911 project since the beginning. I've been meeting with our historian and the Rush Historical Society, understanding what their goals are, what their hopes are. I will concur, they are, as we sat here a couple years ago, they are the only organization that came before us with a feasibility project. No one else did. And I see it as a four corners in our hamlet, as a welcoming to our town, as part of our town campus. And I think it will be an asset that will be utilized by many through exhibits. Probably if you went out and talked to 50 people, 49 haven't been upstairs to our historical society, nothing against it, but they just don't know it's there. And this opens up a small meeting additional space for residents to utilize. And who knows what the future can hold for that property. We put money into it. And I will agree with the comment of the 401k. And even our own finance director said, why would you leave money on the table? You've got money in a grant. If it gets approved, that's free money. You maximize out your 401k because that's free money to match. So for this board to approve and maybe spread it out over a couple of years, however, the grant would not be approved till April, I believe. That's when they'll find out. By the time any sort of progress gets going, again, you and I won't be here, but it's probably into 2025 before much gets going. So I think that expense of matching grants could be worked out to maximize if they get the grant.
This is solely for, we're approving matching a grant. Correct in this resolution?
For the resolution, yes.
Yeah.
If they don't get the grant, they don't get.
Well, let's read it. Let me read it out loud.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Resolution of the Rush Town Board to authorize the expenditure of funds to rehabilitate the 1911 corner house. Whereas the town of Rush has entered into a lease which was subject to permissive referendum with the Rush Historical Society, RHS, an all-volunteer 501c3 nonprofit organization for the structure at 1911 Rush Scottsville Road, commonly referred to as the 1911 Corner House, located on the Town of Rush campus. And whereas the town of Rush, together with the town historian and the RHS Board of Directors, conducted a feasibility study, developed a master plan, and agreed on a conceptual design to rehabilitate and repurpose this town asset for the benefit of the current and future residents of the town. And whereas the 1911 Corner House is in need of significant rehabilitation and renovations in order to render it suitable for use by the town, and the RHS for its use and for the storage of the town's historical artifacts, and to provide a more attractive, engaging, and accessible location for residents and visitors to enjoy exhibits and participate in events sponsored by the town and RHS. And whereas the updated assessment for the total rehabilitation of the interior and exterior of the structure and grounds based on the current conceptual drawing is approximately $200,000. And whereas the RHS has developed a development plan that is underway to seek grants and funds to support the aforementioned cost to rehabilitate the property, the town board recognizes the opportunity and commitment to support this development effort by providing matching funds, paying for expenditures not covered by grants and providing in-kind contributions by providing staff time and expertise as needed to provide technical, administrative, and clerical support. Now therefore be it resolved that provided that RHS is successful in obtaining aforementioned grant funding for the 1911 Corner House, the town is willing to commit to provide matching funds up to a total of $100,000 towards renovation costs for the 1911 Corner House for the aforementioned scope and purpose. And be it further resolved that the above referenced commitment and any expenditures in furtherance thereof shall be subject to the town procurement policy, New York General Municipal Law, and other grant funder requirements. Such expenditures shall be further subject to town funding availability based on budget allocation and approval, and expenditures for specific work to be performed shall be subject to town approval of specific construction plans and a proposal as may be submitted by RHS at such future time that such work is proposed to be done. That is the resolution. Is that how you understand it?
So Dan, yeah, the first sentence and the now therefore be resolved is conditions the matching funds provided that RHS is successful in obtaining grant funding.
Yep.
Is there a second or further discussion?
I will second that, but I also want to remind everybody, you alluded to it in your farewell speech,
What'd I say?
well, that this board, this current board, has negotiated a host community agreement. And this town, due to our negotiations, is getting $300,000 from Invenergy. 100,000 sooner rather than later, and then the balance of 200,000 when they actually turn on the switch. But we will be getting money that we can use, so no taxpayer dollars need be expended for us. We have this, and some of that money is supposed to be earmarked because of the
requirements for the
under the
mitigation.
requirements under that. So to me, this is a no-brainer decision. And I am ready to vote.
And let me just say one thing, and that is I've been in support of this project since I first heard about it. One of the reasons I have continued to support it is because I've been a visitor to the New York Museum of History on several different occasions. And I see this as nothing less than a Rush Museum of History. And every time I go upstairs, when Sue Lee lets me come up there, it's fascinating to see the stuff that she has collected up there that I haven't even had a chance to look at. And I think to have it displayed in this 1911 house will be the frosting on the cake as far as our history goes. And I'm hoping that that we will see that day come. And I'm ready to vote.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we have a set of plans now. I think we should wait until I think costs are going to run well past $200,000. I think we have a set of plans now. We could get a price from a contractor to find out exactly how much this is going to cost to rehabilitate the project. I mean, we can pledge $100,000 now. What happens if it runs to 300,000? We're going to be on the line for another 100 grand.
Well, Dan, first, they have to apply for the grant and their deadline is now for that. To get the 200,000 for that free money. And if they don't get it, then we're back to square, you guys are back to square one.
But if they do get it and we run over, where are we going to find extra money? I mean, I'm sure the grant will be available next year and we'll have a better handle. I mean, this, everything gets pushed to the very end. I mean, I met with Dave and Sue just this week and I had no paperwork, no anything about it. Like, here we go. It's like, I would like to get some information before I act, especially if I'm going to be committing at least $100,000, probably a lot more.
That's your call.
Sue, would you like to say something? You've been intimately involved with this project since day one.
Yes, thank
So
you.
we'd like to hear what you have to say.
Okay, I would like to just address a couple of Dan's points. And we are in the process as part of the grant application packet of obtaining contractor estimates right now. So that will be part of the packet. We weren't able to do that until we got the finalized plans from the architect. So that's allowing us to submit those to contractors that they can tally up what the materials and labor costs would actually be. So once that's completed, we'll have a firm answer. If the cost does go over the $100,000, asking $200,000 project that we're anticipating, we'll be in a good position to apply for other grants down the road. You know, we'll have a substantial amount of work done. We're thinking probably this should take care of all of it, but you know, we don't know. Like Dan said, costs do increase. And by the time this would actually be implemented, maybe something would be higher than what we anticipated. But then we'll be in a very strong position to apply for other smaller grants. This would certainly get us, you know, well on the way to achieving and making a usable property for the community. Does that kind of address a couple of what you were concerned with, Dan?
Yeah.
And are there any other questions?
Thank
that
you, Sue. I
any of us-
see, the vice chair wants to add a comment.
Co-chair,
Co-chair.
Yeah, co-president. actually.
co-president.
So yeah, just to add to that is, when I said earlier about being transparent, all town board members had all the plans all the way along the lines. You had the layouts, the drawings, nothing has changed. As Sue said, that's what we've been trying to get. Now, remember, this is a year process. The grant process is a long process. This is not last minute by any means, Dan. You've had all the information. It's delivered on a timely basis, everything you've had. This is nothing new. This isn't the last minute. What's the last minute is the clock running out all the time. Because that's how grants work. Grants open up. There's a slew of paperwork that has to go in, lots of hours and hours and hundreds of hours. And those that written grants know that. So I just want to, you know, kind of just set the record straight. The material and everything has been there. We don't need to prolong this anymore with questions about, I need to see drawings and things like that. They're there. There you go.
Thank you. Did we have a second?
It's a second, so you can ask for a vote.
We would like a vote, please.
Councilwoman Corbin.
Aye.
Councilman Chase.
Aye.
Councilman Morelli.
Aye.
Hooper,
Nay.
Supervisor Cusey.
Aye. All right. So. We've got to move on to item number 3. And that is a proposed resolution for a recreation contractor agreement for 2024. And Pat Stevens, are you with us?
Yes, Jerry, I'm here.
Hi, Pat.
Hi, Amber.
Would you like to lead the discussion on that because you've been intimately involved? And you know
Yeah,
more?
sure. This agreement, it was put in place by David Howe. It's a template, an agreement for anyone that does contracted services with the town. So this is like the one the town board did last week. This is for another instructor who does independent work as far as recreation programs. The person's name is Pat Rose. She teaches seniors exercise class every Thursday morning for 10 months out of the year. She provides her own insurance with the town of Rush added as an additional insured. So she has completed it, filled it out and signed it, and she just needs us to complete a resolution accepting the agreement.
And Pat, it's Amber. So it's basically another resolution as we did 2 weeks ago, just for a different person.
Different service, yes.
Service.
Yep.
Right, so I will move to authorize the town supervisor and recreation supervisor to sign an agreement with independent instructor Pat Rose to conduct recreational services at the William R. Udicious Pavilion, 1900 Rush Scottsville Road, Rush, New York, during calendar year 2024, subject to attorney approval. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I'll second it.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Councilman Chase,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilman Blumer,
Aye.
Riser QC.
Aye. Thank you. I think Deputy, the next one would be led by you because it talks about a resolution for a maintenance contract for this boardroom and the AV equipment in it. And you have forgotten more than I know about that.
I did, again, Dan Wooler and I spoke about this when we met last week. I shared with the board a few weeks ago, this maintenance contract as I was getting ready to transition all my material to the new supervisor and the new board, and realizing that this equipment is at its year warranty being up. And, you know, there have been some hiccups along the way that they've been able to fix. And the worst thing to do is to have a hiccup that isn't able to be fixed or covered. So they sent us their maintenance contract with all the specifics. So we wrote up a proposed resolution with our options. Did seek input from the town clerk and deputy town clerk. There was discussion about trying to go out and get another outside vendor to come in and give us a quote. And I think it's important to know that Dave Slabowski was part of this project a couple years ago. And we went was it us or a previous town board? I think it was us. We went with our options because they did the previous audio video system that we had here 5 or 6 years ago. And they were able to repurpose our microphones, our speakers, and things like that. So they know the system. The wires are in the ceiling, the wires are in the wall. And when Dan Wooler and I spoke, it's kind of like with and Dan, I don't mean to speak for you. You can stop me at any time. It's like with our HVAC equipment here in the town hall. We know how many problems there are with this heating and air conditioning system with this town hall. And if we were going to hire a completely different vendor to come in and try to troubleshoot it, Dan, I'll let you add to that if you'd like.
It seems to make sense to have the people who put it in work on it.
And in a year's time, if the new board decides they want to start looking for someone, you've got a year to make a decision. So I will move to authorize the town supervisor to sign a support warranty maintenance service contract with our options at 50 Industrial Park Circle, Suite 2, Rochester, New York, 14624, effective January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, for an amount of $1,860. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Councilwoman Corbin.
Aye.
Councilman Chase.
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Blumer,
Aye.
Riser QC.
Aye. And that allows us to move on to number 5 under new business, but I've got to ask Robert, you're prepared to have a attorney-client privilege session for that?
This is
For the
totally,
fees?
this
No.
is totally separate from that, Jerry.
Okay,
Yeah, but I think the fee schedule was something raised by John Limbeck.
yes,
No, we don't have to have an attorney client session.
okay, then we can move beyond that.
Yes.
And oh, by the way, I wanted to let everyone know John Limbeck has pneumonia. And very unfortunate.
Well, with number 5, Jerry, the reason we added it to the agenda is to start the discussion for the new board to consider, because we've started getting some emails about this.
Yes.
And one of the questions that came from one of the subboards was, why is there a 15% administrative fee added on to planning and zoning applications? It's not added if I want to put in a swimming pool. There's not a 15%, I don't believe, for that. But if there is a charge through for engineering or legal fees, there's a 15% administrative fee. And I really couldn't answer that question because there's been some administrative fee for quite a while. So in talking with you, did you want to put it on here for tonight? You said yes, just to kind of start the conversation for, so that whatever was shared with me could be then forwarded on to the new administration. It was seen as the 15% was a money grab, because if I'm building a large subdivision and I have $2,000 worth of engineering fees that I have to pay as a planning board applicant, I have to pay 15%. If I only have a $100 planning board application fee, I only have to pay. So the amount of work did not seem that much different to require such a large difference between the two. And then the question I couldn't answer is, where does that 15% go to? I don't know. I've never seen an accounting in my 4 years of it, never thought to ask. So I'll open that up to everyone's discussion. Comments?
The memory that I have, which you know isn't always great, but it sometimes works. And I remember when we adopted that 15%, that was to go to the clerk. You remember that, Valerie? Or was
She
that
wouldn't have
before
been
you?
here. She wasn't
I
here.
don't know that it's going to the clerk, but increase from 15% is only from 10%. It was 10% prior.
Is that what it was before?
So I understand there's all along. Small increase.
And was that to cover the cost of the clerk and the deputy clerk interfacing with the engineering firm and the law firm?
I believe there's a lot of things involved in it. It's time that it takes for us to break down what the charges are, the administrative time it takes for us to input it into the computer. We have gather these invoices, we have to mail it out. And, we have to give it over to the finance department. It sounds like it's not a lot. Just say, oh, well, you just send out. And just for me to do what I've been doing the last couple of weeks, it's taken me several days from start to finish. And that alone is hours and hours of work.
Thank you.
I would suggest that we consider making it a flat fee versus a percentage. Because if you have $1,000 project versus a $10,000 project, it sounds like the steps are the same. And so if someone's paying a $500 fee or $100 fee or whatever it is, that it's the same amount of time it takes to send out an invoice, whether the applicant paid the town $500 or whether they paid $25.
Do you have a comment on that?
Is that not so? I could be wrong.
I think that it's a idea to consider.
Would you do that? I mean, would you have two different flat fees though? I mean, it might take a little bit more for some of those bigger jobs. So would you have, X amount, this rate, and then above and beyond that, then you're maybe a little bit more?
So I don't know, you know, what's involved. That was a pretty good description. I was just thinking about this and thinking that, as a percentage, it's not double the work or triple the work.
Right,
It's,
but it might be more work.
it could be, that I don't
So
know.
maybe I think it's a good idea to have the flat rates. That way they know right away what you're dealing with when
Right.
they're looking at it. But I don't know if we ought to have a couple steps in that flat rate where you'd say, all right, well, if you're building a shed or something like that, then, okay, that's $50 or whatever.
You know, I don't know what that number is.
But, you know, and then for like a larger project, like a subdivision or solar project or whatever, then, you know, you might have a different level that is a flat rate.
So I think it's worth asking and getting input from the clerks as to, you know, is the level of work different that would warrant?
And is it work that they do as part of their everyday job, or is this outside of their everyday job, that's what this fee goes to offset?
Yeah, I mean, I
don't know.
I don't know either.
Right.
My thought, I guess my brain wraps around it is it's, you know, it's another task that they have to do. If that application wasn't there, then they wouldn't have that task to do. So it's a little bit extra.
Well, and I asked our finance officer of how it works when this person asked me, and I couldn't answer their question. And it actually adds, according to Janice, if I recall what she said, it actually adds more because she gets the revenue from the clerk's office and they break it down. And then she has to break it down into the administrative cost versus this. So I think there's multiple people for this new board to talk to work through this.
If I could just make one comment, it's, sometimes application being over several months. If they're going to sit in front of the planning board, you know, month after month after month, and that means, let's say, engineering or the attorneys are gonna send out an invoice one month and then the next month. So we're going to do several times, let's say, with a flat fee, well, let's say I'm the one who's helping, and it invoice once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. You know, because they're gonna be separate fees. So I'm gonna say it's $50 fee. Well, I've taken care of that 5 times. That's really not gonna cover that. Versus somebody else who take care of one time, that $50 fee cover that. Same as the person who came up 5 times.
And that's hard to know up front until they get into it.
And
See
probably
what's
where-
missing in the application.
Where the percentage came up.
Good discussion.
I think we need Pam here.
Well, you
Let's,
need the supervisor secretary too, because she's the one that does all the planning and zoning
Absolutely.
board stuff. That's no longer in that office, unless you're gonna change it. So maybe you're gonna change it.
We need more input before we,
Oh, I agree, Dan, but when the
Too far.
question came up, I went to Jerry and I said, let's get the questions out there so you guys can hit the ball, what they say, running. Ball? Running?
I think hit
Running, hit the ball?
hit the ground.
Hit the ground running.
hit the ball. Maybe some soccer.
Good soccer.
All right, Dan, you're gonna take over on that, right?
Yep.
I'm imagining.
Second agenda item. Everything I gave you last time, Dan.
All
Put it on
right,
the list.
last but not least, we're gonna have a discussion and proposed resolution for the run-in shed roof repair for Horse's Friend.
Dan and I, and Oliver and I, and Pat Stevens met with Horse's Friend. Was it a month ago, Dan? What'd you say? A month ago, and they were explaining the situation to us. And the board got the information. So when this board back in April of 2023 approved the credit for the run-in shed roof with Todd Fritz, we agreed to credit up to the 8,000 for the run-in roof repair. On that quote, just like with the 1911 house, there was an added part that said if any sheathing or whatever, Dan, you can explain the words better than I can, that would be an
Plywood.
what's it called? Plywood?
It's plywood, but it's also called sheeting.
Okay, thank you. So they approached Pat and myself. We invited Dan as the incoming new supervisor elect. So they could explain it, and the additional cost at the time of them putting it in. They really couldn't come back to us and say, oh, stop, Todd Fritz, we got to go get town board approval. So they understand if we're not going to approve it, but they're asking for an additional $600 credit on their rent. You were sent 2 Excel spreadsheets, one that showed when the rent will start to kick in versus when the rent will not start to be kicked in. And I thought I wrote it in my notes somewhere, but maybe I didn't. The one thing that was not part of this, that they wanted us to share, is that we had also approved for some heating work to be done. We had approved that credit. I apologize, I don't remember the amount, but they no longer need that credit. So this would kind of, Dan, do you remember, right? This would kind of balance that out.
Yeah, I think the heat credit was more than the 600.
100?
I'm not absolutely sure though, but there is some offset there.
It is to offset it. So they are asking for us to pass a resolution for an additional $600.
And Amber,
Credit.
I took the liberty this afternoon after I received the resolution.
To
that you
change it
sent.
around?
Yeah, just a few wordsmithing changes.
Okay.
And Dan, I apologize, I would say, Dan Williver, I don't have a copy that I can hand to you. I'll just explain briefly what my wordsmithing changes are.
Okay.
Very minor, but as attorneys, I guess we can't help ourselves.
I know the feeling, but I'm not an attorney.
The major changes is that it says it's approved as an additional credit, and I added against the rent due from a Horse's Friend, because the original resolution just said as an additional credit. I wanted to make clear it was a credit against the rent that was due. And then the other main one is I referenced the prior resolution was for.
Thank you.
Yep. In April, as referenced by Amber, I said, as provided in the existing lease agreement beyond the credit approved in resolution 125-23. Just so there was no confusion as to what the additional credit was referring to as in addition to that prior resolution. Everything else is essentially the same.
All right. And I did find my notes that the rent for 2024 with the additional amount will be $10,717 versus the $11,317. So in 2024, the town will start receiving monthly rent payments, and after their credits are used up in 2024, the town will receive out of $10,717. And then in 2025, $18,000 is what their annual rent is. So I did fine.
We move on.
Well, we have to. Go ahead, someone can read it. You just
I can
want
do
to
it.
end. You
I'll
want to
do it.
run out of here.
So I move for it to be resolved that the town board hereby approves of an additional credit against the rent due from a Horse's Friend to the town as provided in the existing lease agreement beyond the credit approved in resolution number 125-2023 for the cost of major improvements to White Springs Farm, 6565 East River Road, which includes the repair and replacement of the roof on the existing run-in next to building number 9, per proposal by vendor Todd Fritz, Inc., 554 Avis Street, Rochester, New York, 14615, dated October 13th, 2023, not to exceed $600. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Aye.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Wolford,
Aye.
Supervisor QC.
Aye. All right. So, having no further business to discuss, I hereby adjourn this meeting. But I also want to offer Robert Marks, our attorney. You mentioned an attorney-client privilege for tonight?
Yeah, is that something, and I sent an email to Dan Williver, and you as well, Jerry, is that something that you wanted to do tonight?
Well, I proposed it to the board, but I said everyone had the right to reject.
You can always do it next week or January 10th as well.
What's this pertaining to?
A horse friend.
A horse is right.
Okay.
I guess we need to meet. Okay.
I sent Dan, I sent you an email about that as well.
I don't recall seeing it. Okay, yeah, I think we should meet.
Okay,
All
so up the board.
All in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Sorry, go ahead, Valerie. What's that? What'd she say?
You want her to end it?
Yes.
Dan's
Well,
gonna
we
need to
need
stay.
Dan, so we have to end the YouTube. You can stop recording it.
And Valerie, there's a.
The last sentence.